Are the stars finally starting to align for us? It's been a season of a few ups, but many downs, and are we finally starting to see a run of form that all of us have been praying to see throughout the season kick-starting where it matters the most? Because right now, I think we have to pray that Man United get a result against Newcastle. That's either a draw or most preferably a win, but this doesn't mean that we can afford to be complacent. We must win our next two games to safeguard our opportunities to get Europa League football at the end of the season. And I have to say, after our comeback win against Forest, it was reassuring to see the step up in mentality and the step up in quality, especially when our big players came off the bench to help change the game in our favour. Tomorrow night, we play away from home against Brighton, and we have been unbeaten against them throughout the season, so that's a little bit reassuring. However, it's normally times like this where the football gods above us, this is when they want to have their cruel jokes, because for some reason, all of a sudden, Brighton have picked up a 1-0 win against Aston Villa. They've recently picked up a 1-1 draw against Newcastle. And even though they have literally nothing to play for, it seems like they're starting to find some form out from nowhere. So for myself, I'm a little bit nervous, I'm a little bit worried, especially after seeing that first half against Forest, where I still know we aren't the finished perfect article. I don't know, I'm getting a little bit worried, because wouldn't it be fitting that after the nightmare season that Brighton have had, and you know what, I say nightmare, but realistically, if you look at Brighton's history, if they secure a 10th place finish this season, it's one of the highest place finishes that they've secured in their club history in the Premier League. So that's that perspective that has been lost. As Brighton's form turns around, it's also when De Zerbi finds some new ideas to try and bring more structure at the back. And I think that's definitely helped Brighton at this point in time. So I think there's a lot of similarities between how both De Zerbi and Pochettino haven't been able to rely upon star players. Have constantly been working with squads and teams throughout the season where they're picking up injuries at the wrong time, and you're thinking to yourself, if you're De Zerbi and if you feel like there's a possibility that you can upgrade your career and potentially become our new manager next season, then you go into tomorrow's game doing everything humanly possible to try and get that win. We have until the final game of the season to potentially make that happen. Maybe I'm allowing my fears to cloud my judgment at this point in time. I can admit that, because at the same time, Brighton equally are one of the perfect teams to play against, right? Because they're a team that offer you space. They're a very young team. They can be physically dominated, and you can create many opportunities in the transition. And I think this suits our team to a T at this point in time. And knowing the fact that if anything doesn't work in our favor in the game, we have some big stars to turn things around for us off the bench. So tomorrow, my friends, we must complete the quadruple against Brighton this season and hopefully get closer to securing that Europa League spot. So if you guys feel the confidence that we can do this, that we can get Europa League football, hit that like button, my friends. Only hit the like button if you feel like we're set to win. Hope you guys enjoyed the preview, but before we get into anything, this morning, the club have released their 98 inspired retro collection, Blackout or Blankout, and I have to say, these are some beautiful, classic looking jerseys. So beautiful in fact that I had to buy both because I couldn't decide between either one. And if you guys are like me and you believe in equality, then I'm sure you'll do the right thing and you'll buy both, right? But my friends, of course, I'm here to hook you up to get that little discount on top. If you use my code NINI10 at checkout, you get 10% off your final order, and you'll find all the links you need, of course, in the description below and the card above. So hurry up, because this collection will sell out very soon, and this could be one of your final moments to get this kit in time for later this week. So I hope you guys definitely use that link. And getting back into the video, now let's get on with team news, and this will be one of the shortest summaries of team news in any preview this season because the list is getting smaller and smaller. As you can see, Ben and Khans are back in first team training, but they may not be in contention until the final game of this season. Outside of that, it's the usual suspects who are still doing rehab. They're all back on the field, and hopefully they'll be back in time for preseason. And I have to say, I'm especially excited for preseason this summer because we're going to have a full strength squad back that is a lot more united, understands each other more, and is a lot stronger than obviously the previous summer. So that is team news out the way. Now let's discuss some of the key talking points from the press conference. And I have to say that Pochettino was in a very, very good mood today. I think you could see that in his body language, his energy, and I think that's reflected by the uplifting spirits and moods within the squad right now. And you know what? I know that now that we're winning, it's nice to see that Pochettino is being asked, I guess, more positive questions, because this allows us fans to kind of like gauge a different side to him. And I think it's actually nice to see. But let's move on. Let's see what Poch said on Brighton. And essentially he says that when asked if winning tomorrow is key, Poch wanted to communicate that it is without putting unnecessary pressure on the team. Obviously, we have 2 tough games left. That's what he said. Right now, we believe the team is doing well in the second part of the season, or maybe the last 26 to 27 games. But I get he's going to try and like gas up what he's done. It's a little bit of a stretch. You know, we can't get too carried away, I guess. But I guess, you know, if you want to keep the confidence and form good, you want to forget about the negative stuff and only focus on positives. So I can kind of get that in terms of why he communicated this. But I'll always say that I felt like maybe strategy-wise, if Poch had maybe introduced certain things tactically slowly over the course of a season, if he controlled the management of matches a bit better in terms of making the right subs, or maybe having plans to target the opposition's like strong players, maybe things would have been a little different. But at the same time, we're slowly seeing signs that things are starting to finally make sense. And it's good to know that Pochettino is encouraging the confidence within this team to get us that Europa League spot. Now, one of the big questions posed towards Pochettino was, does securing European football define the course of our season? Poch said that he doesn't know, but if you asked him based on the last 10 months we live, then maybe the context is different and maybe it has been a bit of a successful season. Poch posed this question though, and I guess it was kind of indirectly to the board, but he said, will we be judged on results or the process? And I think that's definitely a question for the sporting directors and the owners to decide, because results have not been perfect. But are we finally seeing signs of like this fabled process finally making sense? It does kind of feel like that. Of course, considering the history of this club, Poch said that it's not a great season, but when you consider the unique circumstances that we have been under, the injuries, then you could see this as a very good season, and it only becomes an adequate season if we get Europa League football. So that pressure is kind of there a little bit. Now, even though we secured a cup final spot, semi-final spot, and might still get European football, Poch revealed that if not for the first 10 games at the start of the season, he thinks we may be in a top 4 spot. And you know what? He probably is right, because statistically, since Boxing Day, the 26th of December, only 3 teams have picked up more points than us. That has been Arsenal, City, and Liverpool. So this is probably like the perfect sign to show that we are ready to compete now at a better level. And maybe Pochettino gets more time to work with the squad for next season. I think Poch liked that question because he clapped and was really happy when he was able to show that, yes, you know, we are a team that's maturing. This is proof now. And, you know, there are a lot of players who are living their first experience at this level with these expectations in the Premier League. So it's a great sign of progress that has been made over the course of the season. And it was interesting because one of the key issues that Pochettino felt was causing us the most problems at the start of the season was that we did not have an established defensive line. And I guess that kind of makes sense, right? Because we largely saw Silva and Disasi playing together, and I think as box defenders, they're excellent. But isn't it funny that since we've picked up maybe a handful more clean sheets, Poch has turned towards using a more pacey back line. Trevor Chalobah, since becoming fully fit, has been a first team player since now. Badiashile has returned back to the team, and he looks a lot more assured and he looks really confident playing alongside Chalobah at this point in time. And I guess with this mid-block setup that Pochettino uses, you need to have a defense that is capable of playing in a higher position. And I do think the fear of having both Silva and Disasi is that if they get caught out, there's tons of yards in behind them which teams can take advantage of. But at least right now we have the recovery pace at least to deal with these types of counter-attacking situations. So, you know, I find that really interesting, and it bodes well for the future that when Wesley Fofana comes back, If we sign another centre-back, I mean Levi Cole is fully fit, maybe our defensive structure is set to be even better going forward in the future. But yeah, I think the first half of the season, we definitely had the most problems, we had the most growing pains, and as I've consistently said, I felt like at the start of the season, Pochettino should have made us play a lot more offensively. Don't care about the tactics too much. Let the team build the confidence slowly, because they're a team of strangers that don't understand each other's game. And at the start of the season, it felt like we were trying to become the perfect team too soon. You know, dominating possession, stopping counterattacks, you know, just like putting pressure on the opposition. But in the end, we couldn't score goals. We couldn't create moments. We were very disconnected. And inadvertently, we were actually conceding more counter-attacking situations because we couldn't really take advantage of our domination in the opposition half. And it does maybe bode well for the future that now that the team are growing more together, during pre-season when they have more time to like fine-tune this way of playing, could we see a bit of a tactical revolution coming in the future? I'll leave that question with you guys because we end things with the final key points from the press conference. Obviously, Pochettino spoke towards the future. He reiterated that yes, there are plans in place for next season. They are thinking ahead in the future. It will be on the board and directors to decide whether they want to work with Poch or not. But he did reveal that if we finish strong this season, we can start next season in a different position. So come on, Europa League football, that's what we need to get right now. And to end things with his perspective on his relationship with us, the fans. He said that he doesn't know how the fans feel about him. That's for us to decide. It was also tough for him during this time at Spurs in his first season. I remember that. There was cause for him to get sacked. They didn't click until that last minute winner against Southampton. But as he's been reiterating throughout this season, he isn't a fake guy. He could have kissed the badge in the first 3 games of the season. He wants it to be a real, organic feeling and connection with the fans, because for him, when you get real love from the fans, it brings real confidence to the players, and our energy gives them good confidence in their performance too. Poch admitted that the fans will only love him once himself and the squad prove that they are serious people. But of course, he cares about the fans, our opinion, the players, the club, and wants to build that honest relationship going forward into the future. So I do think that Europa League guarantees is going to really create a lot more patience with Pochettino in the future if he does remain here for next season. And I think this will give us fans that confidence to know, okay, maybe there is something that this guy can get right for us. So my friends, I know I spent a lot of time at the press conference. We have some big things to discuss. Right now we end things with the penultimate predicted lineup of the season. And does Pochettino have a bit of a selection headache on his hands? Maybe not, because he reiterated that just because players are not injured and are back, it doesn't mean they can be rushed back. And it doesn't mean that they are 100% fit. So expect more subs to affect the game off the bench. So knowing this is the lineup I'm going for. As you can see, consistency is on my mind. So Nico up front. I had to think about this attack. I'll explain it later on. But I've gone for Mudryk, Palmer and Madueke again. Midfield of Caicedo, Gallagher. And defense of Cucurella, Badiashile, Jalaba, Gusto, and Petrovic in goal. Now, as I said, deciding the attack was hard, bar Cole Palmer and Nico Jackson. I'm praying that Nicholas Jackson can get more goals in the final 2 games. If he can somehow get 3 in the last 2 games to get to 20 goals this season, you know, I think people are going to re-examine what this guy's about, because in 2024, everything's gone up from conversion rate to consistency. I think 7 goals in 11 games. You know, his output for the team. He's shown such big developments in like such little amounts of time. And I really believe in Nico Jackson, because as I've said, what's always given me that faith and confidence around him is that he's an actual football player. Some of the touches we've seen this season, his ability to carry the ball, take the game to opponents. I've always loved strikers that can do more than just score goals or play teammates in. And he's the type of like multifaceted threat where, you know, imagine what he could be like when he's in his absolute prime at 27 years old. You're looking at someone that maybe could be a potential, you know, top 20 striker in Europe. Let's see what happens. But obviously, outside of that, I was thinking to myself, with Sterling's cameo against Nottingham Forest, surely he starts in the game, right? But I just think that right now, consistency is best. I've kept Mudryk and Madueke for one reason alone, and that reason is Cole Palmer. The reason why we've stepped up and become a better team is that Cole now has more freedom and license to play in. He can now affect the game more centrally, but he can only do that if he has that support in his right winger. And this is what Madueke brings at least. Now, Madueke had one of his poorest games this season against Nottingham Forest, and I was really disappointed by his performance. You guys know I was. But then after thinking about it for a few days, realistically, I can't be expecting him to just be getting better and better and better every single week. There are going to be moments where he dips. And I think if I can have that patience for Mudryk, I can have that patience for Madueke, because maybe it's about flipping this, right? Maybe we have to look at how Madueke reacts to his poor performance against Forest. How does he conduct himself now? Will he be disappointing in himself? Does he want to come back now and right those wrongs from the weekend? We will learn a lot about his mentality if, of course, he starts against Brighton, but I do really feel that because Cole Palmer is so key in this central position, I think Madueke should be starting in the team, because as I said, if I can have patience with Mudryk, it's the same thing for Madueke, and I'll keep both these wingers against Brighton. Midfield speaks for itself. There's nothing really to add other than Caicedo. Boy, this guy's playing some great football. I'm really excited to see his performance against his former club. I want to see how he performs there. He's really looking like a class active midfield, especially with his playmaking. Caicedo's giving complete midfielder vibes, and obviously in defence, Cucurella, another former Brighton player, continuing to invert. Badia and Jalabo, of course, in defence, but the only change I've made is Malo Gusto playing right back. I think we need that. We need someone that can push Adingra back. We need someone that can go toe-to-toe 1v1 against Adingra. I thought Jalabo struggled against Hudson-Odoi, which is natural because Hudson's a great player, but I do feel like if he's able to maybe just like stay in defence, that would be better. And I think he needs that support of a right back that has that pace, that can also affect the game in the final third. So that's the only difference I want to see in that first team. I want to see Malo Gusto playing right back over Thiago Silva. Let Thiago Silva play his final game against Bournemouth on the weekend. That makes the most sense for me. My friend, this is my predicted lineup. This is my preview. I hope you guys enjoy. And come back later again today for today's big news video. Got some big stories to discuss, so I look forward to seeing you guys again. See you all later. Cool.